push him back. Hey.
We are now 1 day from the race and the car is put together, I hope. We haven't shaken it down yet. That's what the warm-up session's for. There was so much that I could not get on camera because there was just not enough time. We made a splitter. We had to change the oil catch can configuration. We made a spoiler. We paneled the whole passenger compartment of the car. I'm gonna go over everything with you right now. I'm sorry you didn't get to see the build process of all that stuff, but that's really why I need all your thumbs up on these videos so that we can get someone recording us while we do these things and be able to show you the whole process. So let's go over to the car right now and I'll show you everything that we've been through from the last video to now. And then we're gonna go through the race weekend together and hopefully have a good time of it. And first order of business, this is our new front splitter. It's made from 16 gauge aluminum and hardware store turnbuckles. We have some side spats to hopefully direct the air away from the front tires since they stick out of the bumper a little bit on the bottom with the negative camber. One of the things I'm a little bit bummed about is this oil catch can setup. I had the stock factory air box over there that I was gonna use as a catch can. We fixed a few leaks and then it was just under so much vacuum, the walls of the air box were closing in on themselves. And I didn't figure that was going to last for 4 hours. So we went on Amazon and got ourselves a $20.64 Amazon special oil catch can. It even says oil catch can right on the top. We got our headlights wired in. So our front headlight is wired where the blinker used to be on the passenger side, and the driver's side is as it should be from the factory. It looks like the car is looking to the left when the headlights are on. Let's show you. See, this way I can side-eye my opponents, you know? He looks a little bit skeptical. Like, hey, what the heck are you doing over there, buddy? Get away. That is our custom cowl, custom windshield. It's a little bit shorter than the original one, a little bit smaller, should have less wind resistance because of that. I added this strap up to the roll cage. It'll also serve as a safety measure in case, say, a tire comes flying towards my face. Hopefully that'll slow it down a bit. This whole thing is 5 pieces in total. We have our front cowl that came out pretty nice, I believe. A little bit of bead roller action to get some stiffness. We have the pegboard covering where the passenger seat would be, riveted down to just a couple strips of angle going down from the one end of the bar to the next. And it's a 2-piece aluminum setup in the rear so that we can get around the bar. So we added this 5th piece in the middle so that we can still access our fuel pump components. This is our custom spoiler. It's polycarbonate. I was on McMaster-Carr looking for raw materials to make this thing, and I was astounded to find out how much clear solid polycarbonate cost. Granted, I was trying to purchase a lot more than I needed because I was planning on having to scrap a lot of this in the build process because I didn't exactly know how it was going to go together yet. But if you'll notice, that's not what this is. This is a little bit less clear. You can't see through it as well, which might be to my detriment because I don't know how well I'm going to be able to see the cars behind me through the rear view. But it was a heck of a lot cheaper than the solid stuff. I think the sheet of the solid stuff in the size that I wanted, which was 4x4 or something like that, it was over 200 bucks. And this guy, same size, was 30 bucks. This is designed for homes. It's the kind of stuff that you use in windows to insulate the house against sun and keep the cold air in, all that good stuff. And it's considerably cheaper than the solid. Yeah, we're getting ready to load this thing and head on out. So come on along.
Start this off with some power numbers. We got to the track, we put the car on the dyno. I needed a dyno sheet anyways to be spec legal, but I was curious about how much power we were able to add with the intake modifications we did. So we were able to put on 24 horsepower on this little guy. If you have an underpowered car, you know exactly how big of a difference 24 horsepower makes. We started with 106, ended up with 130 at the rear wheels, and that was just with a relocation of the air intake and removal of the restrictor plate that is required for Spec Miata. So for almost nothing, we gained 24 horsepower. Now that's great news. The bad news is we didn't get the car back from the dyno until almost about an hour before we had to go to grid. They had it all day because they were super busy. Now we had to put a light on the car. We had to practice our pit strategy, our fueling strategy. These guys that have been helping me in Spec Miata for the past few years, my dad, Hector, my brother, they've never done endurance racing before, and I myself have only done endurance racing on 2 occasions as a crew member. So we had a lot of ground to cover. We had to go over safety practices, fueling practices, and we wanted to get a little bit of right-hand circle, left-hand circle in when it came to dumping fuel in quickly without spillage, because spilling fuel on the ground is the number one do not do when you're on pit lane. And as you'll see later in the video, that lack of time really comes back to haunt us.
To the paddock, take the paddock. All work endurance drivers, report to grid.
As far as driving the car, it was phenomenal. Totally different driving experience. We had less weight by about 300 pounds. We had more power by 24 horsepower, less frontal area, and less drag. So in 4 critical areas, we improved the performance of this car, and it made a massive difference. It is an absolute thrill to drive, especially with the open air around you, being able to see the sky up through the roll cage. It's a totally different experience. It's still a momentum car. You know, it doesn't quite have enough power to get it down the road as I would like, but we have some plans for that in the future. As far as smiles per mile, top of the food chain right here. I could not stop grinning all the way around the course. But I started having an issue about an hour in. It felt like the car was running out of fuel. I know the Miata on this course should last around 2 hours with a full tank, so obviously something was wrong, but I didn't really have a choice but to come in for fuel. So I come in, first pit stop, it doesn't go great, it's a bit haphazard, it's a bit of a cluster, we spilled some gas on the floor, and we were reprimanded by the safety crew about fuel safety. I make my way back onto the track, drive another 30 minutes, and again, it feels like the car's running out of gas. So now, knowing something's wrong, I still didn't have a choice but to come in for fuel again. So second pit stop, an hour and a half in. So this pit stop didn't go a lot greater than the first. We spilled gas again. We were scolded by the track and fire crew about safety. They really tried to drill it into our heads that this is a life or death situation. Fires aren't easy to put out, and it's best if you don't start one in the first place. So it was a learning lesson for us, but what was really humbling was minutes after we had this conversation with the track, this happens. Let me inject a bit of backstory here. So my communication system is analog, and there's lots of parts of the track where I can't hear every single word being spoken to me clearly. Now, my brother's spotting for me, and he mentions that there is a fire. Now, for about a minute, I had to make sure that I wasn't on fire. So I'm checking my mirrors, I'm looking around. I'm a bit concerned because fire was the only thing that came through clearly, and then I see the red flags wave. I pull over to a safe stop on the track. They weren't flailing their arms at me, so I was pretty sure that I wasn't on fire. And then I get the transmission from my brother that the fire is on pit lane. So we sit on track for 20, maybe 30 minutes before the race starts back up again. And he's giving me info, but I'm wondering the whole time if everybody's all right. And we start driving again under a controlled lap, and then we start racing. And I still don't know if the driver's okay, if he got out in time, or if the crew's okay. So for a few laps, I'm wondering if the race is going to go on. I'm wondering if they don't stop the race, I don't know if I even want to continue racing. You know, if there was a serious injury or even a fatality, I didn't know what was going to happen. So emotions are off the charts, tensions are really high, and my brother sends me the transmission. Everybody's okay. The driver made it out in time. The car's probably not going to see another racetrack again, but there are no injuries. So that put me at ease, but seeing that traumatic event unfold really put things into perspective for us, especially just after being scolded about fire safety, right? Simple mistakes on pit lane can be the matter of life and death, and it was sobering to receive that information. It's sad that it came at a cost of someone's race car, but I'm glad it didn't come at the cost of life or limb. So this isn't anything that we will soon forget. So before the next endurance race, we know that we have to devote plenty of time for safe practices on pit lane.
How are you feeling?
I'm feeling great. The car's not feeling so well though.
After the third pit stop, the car only lasted about 15 minutes before feeling like it was running out of gas again, so I went ahead and just brought it in. I didn't want to break down on track and get in anybody's way, so we brought it in, shut it off, rolled it off the track, and ultimately we had a great race weekend. We learned a lot, we got some practice in, nobody was hurt, everybody was safe, which is the number one thing you hope for out of any race weekend. And we had a blast, so we have a lot of new information going into the next race weekend, and the next one will be even better.